Right, another individual's become seated at the detention center Zoom location. Who do I have?
My name's Tyler Beauclair, sir, Your Honor.
Very well. This time, the court will call the case of State of Kansas versus Tyler James Beauclair, case number 2025 CR 303. Darren DeVinny, Butler County Attorney, appears for the state. Tyler James Beauclair appears in custody at the Butler County Detention Center Zoom location. Do you have a copy of your charging document before you, Mr. Beauclair?
No, Your Honor.
Then I will inform you in count one, there is a charge of murder in the second degree, a level 2 person felony. Count two, murder in the second degree, a level 2 person felony. Count three, murder in the second degree, a level 2 person felony. Count four, aggravated battery, a level 5 person felony. Count five, aggravated battery, a level 5 person felony. Since these are serious felonies that are charged in this case, Mr. Beauclair, you will not be asked to plead today. Rather, a preliminary hearing scheduling will be made before your assigned judge. The Honorable Charles M. Hart has been assigned this case. Your next appearance will be before that judge. Judge Hart's next docket would be August 27, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Your case will be on that docket at that time before Judge Hart. August 27, 2:30 p.m. Mr. Beauclair, do you have the financial resources to hire your own lawyer?
At this time, Your Honor, yes. Just me being apprehended, I haven't been able to proceed with that, but I will be shortly. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and I don't doubt that, Mr. Beauclair. However, in an abundance of caution, this court's going to go ahead and appoint a lawyer to represent you. These are very serious charges, quite obviously. I want to make sure that you don't go to any future court proceedings without a lawyer representing you. You certainly have the right to hire your own lawyer. And if you feel that's in your best interest, Mr. Beauclair, I encourage you to go ahead and follow through on any plans that you may have to retain your own attorney. But for now, I'm going to appoint James Watts to represent you. And again, you can replace Mr. Watts at any time with retained counsel. Do you have any questions about that, Mr. Beauclair?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So for now, James Watts will be appointed. Mr. DeVinny, I think because it's relevant to the issue of bond in this case, the court wishes to inquire. According to the state's charging document, this incident which led to these charges took place June 11 of 2025. But there's been a number of weeks go by without the defendant being brought before the court or apparently being arrested in the case. Can you explain?
Sure. There were a couple. First of all, we had multiple hospitalizations. We had to gather information. I had filed an inquisition actually and tried to receive as many reports as we could as quickly as possible. Once we received that, we also had information that the defendant had left Kansas and returned back to Louisiana, his resident state. So we tried to keep him under observation there in Louisiana while we were gathering reports and the final information. This was a severe traffic accident, required breakdowns of cell phones and car histories, as well as, like I said, collection of medical evidence with regard to intoxication, some of these other factors that are relevant to the elements of these offenses. So it did take a little bit of time. On top of that, once we had located the defendant, one of the concerns is that he had apparently sold all of his property and taken his family and was later located outside of Indianapolis. And that's where he ultimately was arrested on that warrant. So there has been some time with regard to not just putting the paperwork together, but actually reviewing all the records and making sure that we had the elements satisfied for all of these offenses.
All right, thank you for that information, Mr. DeVinny. Court notes that this is a very serious matter. 3 homicide charges, 2 potentially presumptive prison aggravated battery charges as well. The court has some information before it that would suggest that Mr. Beauclair apparently has taken steps which this court would construe as trying to abscond or to avoid capture. Therefore, the court considers him a considerable run risk and a considerable risk not to show up in court for future proceedings. The court will set bond in this
Your Honor, Your Honor,
at $1 million, cash or a professional surety required. Do you have a statement you wish to make, Mr. Beauclair?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to make a statement. I
Be
would like to make a
careful
statement.
about talking about your case.
Yes,
No.
yes, Your Honor. It's only considering the bond. I was hoping to make this statement before bond was considered. Saturday, this past Saturday, I spoke with Detective Bob Albert, and all these statements of fleeing have been clarified and proven by Detective Bob Albert. Your Honor, I worked away, and I was working away in Kansas, Your Honor, and post to the accident, Your Honor. My wife had a due date for our newborn baby, which was 3 days away from the accident. So I did leave Kansas and head back home and was there for the birth of my child, Your Honor. And we had actually had plans to move to Kansas prior to the accident. We were moving to Kansas, which is the reason my house and property was already sold, Your Honor. The one day after the accident happened on a Wednesday. Friday, we were actually driving back to Louisiana anyway. I was going to travel back to Louisiana anyway to finalize paperwork on the sale of my home in Louisiana, and we were moving to Wichita to move there permanently. So all the selling off property and everything, this happened prior to before I ever even arrived to Kansas. This was already happening, Your Honor. And the second thing I would like to say is, it was proven this past Saturday, and I was promised by Detective Bob Albert that would have been reported to the court, but I'm seeing now that maybe it hasn't been reported. But we called Mr. William Wonder on the spot, which is the owner of the company that I was working for, and proved that I was working in Indiana, awaiting any charges, to come against me, and then I would just simply turn myself in. We had been in contact with the Butler County Sheriff's Office and told them, if there's any charges to be against me, just give us a call, let us know. I'll just turn myself in, so I don't have to be extradited or anything like that. And we had made an attempt to find that out, and we were told that there was no information on the case that could be told to us. So I do have a wife and kids, and I was just supporting my family, Your Honor. And this has been proven. This is not speculation, Your Honor. This has been proven to Detective Bob Albert on this past Saturday, and he can attest to that. It was on camera. We called the owner of the company, and he said, yes, sir, Tyler Beauclair was in Indiana working, and then I was apprehended while in Indiana, Your Honor. So I please am asking you to please reconsider, after hearing my statement, reconsider the bond set amount. I'm not a flight risk. I've never missed a trial. I have every intention for due process here in this case, Your Honor, and I'm very financially invested in the case as of already now. So there's no reason for me to flee. But I do have a wife and kids at home that I'm the main breadwinner for, and my wife has a newborn baby right now. He's a month old, and I just want to be able to support my family during the due process of this case. And I have every intention to be at every trial, and I'll wear a GPS monitor on my ankle or whatever could reassure the court that I would be here. We have reliable transportation for me to be here. So I just ask, Your Honor, I do have a bail bondsman already, working on this. So I would just ask that you please reconsider that, because I promise I'm not a flight risk at all. And the facts that I've offered up to you today would prove that, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you for your statement, Mr. Beauclair, but it really doesn't change the view of the court here. And I'll tell you why, Mr. Beauclair. What you've reaffirmed for the court is that you do not have established local ties. You have 3 very serious homicide charges pending against you, which any of those charges would be enough to presume that you would be in prison if convicted. So the risk is great for you not to appear. You make promises to the court that you'll do this and you'll do that. But the reality is, at this point, the court is going to stay with its original order and establish bond at $1 million, cash or professional surety required. If you feel aggrieved by this court's ruling, you can apply to the assigned judge, the Honorable Charles M. Hart, and seek relief from the assigned judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
At this point, it's $1 million, cash or professional surety required. Furthermore, Mr. Beauclair, as conditions of that bond, I will require GPS monitoring to ensure that you do not leave the state of Kansas for any reason. You're going to be confined to the state of Kansas while out on bond, and all your court appearances, unless Judge Hart orders otherwise, you are to appear at the Butler County Judicial Center in El Dorado, Kansas, for all your court proceedings, whether they're conducted by Zoom or in person. So you have to appear at the Judicial Center in El Dorado for all scheduled court appearances, unless relieved from that ruling by your assigned judge. All right, with those orders made and conditions of bond established, Mr. Devaney, is there anything further from your perspective that we need to address here?
Your Honor, other than I did talk to Detective Albert about the interview on Saturday, and most everything that Mr. Beauclair said was relatively accurate as far as the birth of his child, and he was in Indianapolis. He was seeking employment up there, but again, doesn't really change the state's perspective of anything. I don't know that that satisfies anything, but I did want to make sure that Mr. Beauclair's promises that were made by the Sheriff's Department to forward that information, that absolutely was done, and I spoke with Detective Albert a few hours ago.
Very well. Thank you for that statement, Mr. Devaney. All right, Mr. Beauclair, we've got your court date established with Judge Hart, and you have an appointed lawyer. If you desire to seek any relief sooner than that court date, you can work through that lawyer and file whatever motions you deem appropriate with the assistance of your attorney. I believe that's concluded all of our business here this afternoon, Mr. Beauclair.
Your Honor, could I verify one thing before I go? I would like to ask that on the charges, is it known that this was a car accident, Your Honor?
That's not stated in the charging document, no.
It is. This is a DUI. This is a DUI manslaughter charge, Your Honor.
Well, the prosecutor's office have reviewed the facts of the case, and based on their analysis, they believe it's appropriate to file murder in the second degree charges as a result of what happened. We're not going to get into what happened or what the facts of the case are.
Your Honor, I would just like to make it clear, Your Honor, that this was. It says in the affidavit, Your Honor, that this is unintentional. This was not an intentional act. This was a car accident, Your Honor.
All right. I understand your statement to the court, Mr. Beauclair, but it's not going to change any of this court's orders made here today. If there's nothing further, then the Tyler Beauclair matter will currently be in recess. We'll move on to another matter.